Okay, now we're going. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tiny Crypto Blog. I am Brian, and today I'm doing a stablecoin update. Why stablecoins? Why does it matter? Because I think, as far as the crypto space and the original mission of Tiny Crypto Blog, this falls well within that purview of changing how we interact with one another and also being blockchain related. It is the tide that lifts all boats of adoption. Uh, Stablecoins will make its way into the public lexicon of everyday conversation, not just the purview and domains of nerds, geeks, technologists, and now institutional players. So, timestamp. Where are we looking? There we go. We have got Bitcoin still holding after over 100K after it jumped up there last week. And then we have everything else. And then the article that triggered everything from Cointelegraph. Global demand grows for non-dollar stablecoins says Fireblocks exec. And if you remember, Fireblocks is one of those blockchain infrastructure companies like the Digital Currency Group. Gosh, it's been so long. Some of the companies don't even exist anymore, but it's one of these companies working in the background where they're not your flashy exchanges or these companies developing these protocols, but the companies that everyday people, everyday companies can use to utilize blockchain-based assets. So anyway, Fireblocks does a lot of, they manage transactions and networks. They do custodial services, sort of like BitGo. And in this case, the article goes on to say Fireblocks had a survey, and the general gist was stablecoins are being used extensively, which led me to this big one, which is they did a survey. And granted, I don't know how skewed this survey is, because it says here, scrolling down, that they have more than 300 banks and financial institutions that utilize them for financial transactions, of which 15% of all stablecoin transactions are through them, through Fireblocks, for their clients. Now, how much of those stablecoins transactions are used by their 300 banks and institutional clients? Unclear. Doesn't say. It could be significant, it could be nothing. It could be just vague information to kind of skew a narrative in one direction of adoption. But what I got out of this survey was that, here we go. Oh, there we go, right there. There are the transactions. They did a survey, and how many of those people surveyed are already within the crypto space and how many are outside of the crypto space, and the companies that haven't adopted anything, unclear as well. However, the fact that it can be seen that 90% of companies are doing something related to stablecoins, whether it's already using them for payments, doing pilot tests, or just making plans to do something, says right there, stablecoins, they're not going away. They're here. It's firm. Just like when Bitcoin became adopted for the ETFs, it's here. It's cemented. It's ossified. It's not going anywhere. Stablecoins, the same, unless it's replaced by something else. Right now, this is here now. What are the reasons for it? Cross-border payments, payment acceptance, the liquidity, settlement, how it's used. Let me make sure here that we're good. Yes. And faster settlements, you have transparency, liquidity, integration, security, and lower transaction costs. I just think about times in my life when I've had to wire something. You don't know where something is at. It's okay. It's going to go. We're going to wire to this bank, to this bank, to that bank. There might be, I need a wire to this bank over here. Okay, it has to go through this intermediary. How long does that take? Well, end of the day, it's the each transaction settles. But there's nothing I could go on and independently verify and audit to make sure that money, technically, that's credited for that transaction's going where it needs to go, used how it's used. Can't see that. With stablecoins, you have that public ledger. And that'll lead to one of the questions that I have thinking further ahead of this. Top factors influencing stablecoin adoption: new markets, customer demand, revenue generation. How many of these companies are going to be purchasing stablecoins to deposit with an exchange or a company to try and earn a yield for lending? Unclear. Don't know. Maybe the legislation will allow that. Maybe it won't. But it's another question to have out there. Infrastructure readiness. Yeah. Look at these numbers: 86%, 82%, 75%. This is big. This is huge. And even just with fire blocks, 300 banks and institutions. Again, what constitutes an institution? Is it a family office that employs 4 people? Unclear. Is it 3 banks and 297 family offices? Is it large institutions? I mean, doing some reading, they have large clients such as large retail banks, large business-to-business commerce banks. They have these. It's not something new. Yep. Regulations and industry standards drive adoption. And there we go. From 2023 to 2025, adoption barriers plunging, plunging, plunging. And then this being global, it's a global race. The market has no limit. It's the entire world. A bank in the US can interact with people in any other country and vice versa with restrictions. But the potentials is global. Latin America, yeah, cross-border payments. Latin America is out in front when it comes to implementation. 100% of the survey's respondents, again, what pool this is pulled from, unclear. But respondents in the region are either live, piloting, or planning stages with their stablecoin payment strategy. So this is something I remember, what was it? Peter McCormick went down to Argentina and did a documentary last year about the inflation in Argentina. Actually, it might have been 2023 before Milei was elected. And a big thing down there was using stablecoins on the Tron network. Tether on the Tron network. That was the thing that people transacted in. When you have poor monetary policy and you don't have monetary stability, it is an incentive to drive adoption for these things. And where in the more developed countries that has a little bit more currency stability or less fluctuation, however you want to, degradation, however you want to phrase that, the incentive is more business related, more profit related, and it's driven, I guess, from the institutional end, from the business side of things. Whereas in other countries like Latin America, it's more the retail user, the individual, the end user that's driving the adoption. And just looking at this, stablecoin regulation is the green light and not a barrier. This has been said for quite some time. Legacy risks, demand safer rails. Then you have the infrastructure of it all. Compliance, on and off ramps, transaction costs, liquidity, fast and reliable payments. Better protection would drive adoption. So what does this boil down to? Stablecoins are here. They're going to be used, at least in the United States. In Europe, they're looking to make since they're obsessed with centralization and moving cautiously and having a very centralized nanny-ish sort of control over things, they're looking at a digital central bank digital currency. Questions. So with stablecoins, this leads to questions. What networks will be used or sanctioned? Is that being left open for the market participants to decide? Will it be legislated that you have to use a network with certain parameters? I could see that it would be end up to the end users where they say, hey, we're using reliable network. Like say, we're going to use Ethereum. We're going to maybe use Solana, maybe use Avalanche, maybe use Tron potentially. Or maybe there's a regional thing where we don't want to use Tron because of Asian links or ties to other countries. And to that end too, a European CBDC, what network will that operate on? Will it be its own native network? Will it be on an open blockchain? Unclear. And I think this will be definitely one area that a lot of development and promotion teams for certain smart contract platforms will be fighting for. I absolutely could see, gosh, I'm forgetting the one. I call it corporate coin. Where there's consortium, I think 33 different companies all contributing and managing the network. It'll click in my head. Like I could see a lot of these smaller smart contract platforms trying to fight to get adoption on their platforms to keep them relevant. Again, over time, we've been seeing how slowly through mainstream adoption, all these different tokens, implementation, use, going off kind of like evolutionary change, kind of going off into their own territory and developing their own uniqueness. The band is broken up, so to speak. And then when I think about stablecoin operations, another question with it is if you've been in the space for a while, going back, at least for my time in 2017, one of the big questions was the systemic risk of Tether. If Tether fails, what kind of damage will it do to Bitcoin and the crypto space? And that was because if Tether were to cease its operations, there would be a huge unwinding of people trying to unload their Tether and exchange it back for their assets. There'd be people swapping it and selling off Bitcoin and other digital tokens to try and reliquidate themselves. And it would lead to, the demise or the crash of Tether was seen as one of the top five systemic risks. And now, I think if anything, Tether, it's not a systemic risk. And when I think about Tether, the company, I feel like they're a company that started out as an independent entity and now it's been adopted by the mob and it's completely surrounded and there's no way out. Regulation and legislation and laws and governments have created boundaries and guide rails, if you want to use that term, to the point where Tether has now more or less been brought into the financial services field. And with the size that they are, with the amount of dollars they're in, they've had to evolve over time, which from indications for everything that I've seen, they have. Circle from the get-go was jumping right into the mix and said, this is what we want. We want to go here. And it'll be interesting to see if there are other stable coins that pop up if any of these banks are trying to create their own stable coin as well. I know we hear from time to time an article will pop up about JP Morgan's coin, whatever it's called, JP Morgan coin or something like that. I still have to ask the question, Does it really exist? Have we ever seen screenshots of ledger transactions? Have we ever seen code for that defines its network? Is it real? All we hear is hearsay at this point. Unclear. So yeah, that's where things are standing with stablecoins. I can't remember if I mentioned in this one or in a prior take, but where are we at here? Let's go back to an article and take a look. All right. The bric-a-brac is that U.S. Senate will pass the stablecoin bill soon. I think it was someone on Trump's crypto team that said, hey, we're pushing this as much as we can. It'll probably get passed in August, as far as just how legislative sessions, timing, moving through committees, going through all the necessary steps. So I'd say there's a pretty good chance, I can probably look at Polymarket to see the odds, of legislation for stablecoins passing at least this first initial stage, passing this year, and then stablecoins will go into use. Oh yeah, too. Ripple, they've got XRP. I don't recall if XRP and a stablecoin are two separate things. Maybe. Don't quote me. I don't keep up with the XRP news that much. But yeah. And there we go. Stablecoin update. Things are advancing. Things are moving. There's still questions, but we're starting to get answers. So with that, you can follow Tiny Crypto Blog in all the social media sites listed in the show notes. And with that, be well, everyone. Talk to you soon.